Eli. My name's Nick from Nova Stream Australia. It's a pleasure to meet you, man. How you going today?
I'm doing great, man. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of your work, and I had so much fun with this movie. It is such an entertaining film. And one of the things I really wanted to ask you about is in all of your work, you seem to have this seamless, symbiotic relationship between horror and comedy. I was laughing as much as I was disgusted by some of the kills in this film. And I'm always curious to ask horror filmmakers who are able to blend those two things together, even though they seem like totally opposite ends of the spectrum genre wise. What is it about the relationship between horror and comedy that works so well and that is interesting to bring forward in on screen?
I was just at a Joe Hill conference over at the Overlook Film Festival, and he was asked the same question. And so I'm going to give him credit for this, where he said, uh, horror and comedy are the same. Like they're the same part of your like reptilian brain that sort of just responds with it before they can think, right?
Mm,
It's just a responding type of thing. And the reason why I mean, now I'll cut to my reason why they work so well together is because I think the horror primes the human brain for wanting relief.
mm,
And when you have a certain amount of suspense and adrenaline in your body, um, you want to find a way out of it, right? And
right.
so, and to me, it's not it. The laughter becomes much bigger than it would if that moment just played in a comedy. But it also is more meaningful because there's some part of human existence that loves farce, that appreciates the ridiculousness of this human journey that we all live and die, and it's
Mm.
like this super sad but silly journey we make. And when I've been through any trauma or I've seen it, like I swear to God, this is true to human nature. We're affected very deeply and maybe we cry a little bit, but in short order, we're laughing about something stupid.
Totally.
So I just love mixing those two. And I also find humor gives us hope. And I,
Yeah.
weirdly enough, think I make hopeful movies. Um, it's not
What would
hopeful for some of those kids that die, but it's hopeful for the ones that don't. They have something to look forward to.
and it's that us at the end of the audience, we're relieved as well that we are out of that experience and we get to go on that journey then with the people who do make
Yeah.
it. Which I'm glad you brought up those people, the unfortunate deaths that do have to happen in horror films, because the not just in this film but in your previous films as well, the creativity and the uniqueness behind some of the deaths is as a horror fan incredible and astounding, and I'm always surprised and shocked at some of the deaths that do happen. I'm curious to know what your creative process is like in coming up with a good death scene. Do you sort of have like a Rolodex of ideas where you go, oh, that one will work here and that one will work here? Or is it very much character driven, story driven? What is your process?
Well, it's really me just yelling out strange ideas to my wife and son. And my kids, actually two kids, 10 and 18 now, that listen to me like if somebody recorded our conversation in my house, they'd take me away because it's like, it'd be a great way for a college kid to die. In fact, I have a funny story when my it was like 15 years ago that Tucker and Dale was made. And so
Mm,
my son who's 18 now was like say 6 years old. It was right after it sort of came out. And he
yeah.
runs up to one of his teachers and he was just trying to grasp. Unfortunately, he had seen some of Tucker and Dale. It's probably totally unacceptable. But wait to see what this kid does in life. But he runs up to the teacher and says, it'd be really funny if a college kid fell in a wood chipper. And I get a call right away from the school, like that your son has some serious issues. He wants to
Oh
throw college
no.
kids in wood chippers. And we had to explain to her that I just made this film. And so it was on me. But yeah, I just kind of unload all these ideas to my family. And then once you kind of get an idea, you try to add to it and keep
Yeah.
adding to it. Like at first it was a bench press death. And then it kind of was like, no, there needs to be something on that. What kind of saw might be attached to that? And you just elevate it.
That was the one. That was the one where when we walked out of the cinema, the people I saw it with going, I was like, I never thought I'd ever see that in a film ever. So the fact that we're still getting surprised with these horror kills is so much fun
Awesome.
for
Awesome.
horror fans like us, man. What I love about the film as well is that you so lovingly wear the influence of 70s and 80s slasher films on the sleeve, and it's such a prime era of horror films. But I'm curious to know how you, as a filmmaker and as someone who does obviously love that genre, balance paying homage to it, but then also putting your own unique, what putting Eli Craig's voice in that genre. So I'm curious to know what that balance is like with you. Is that a conscious thing you are thinking about?
To some degree, yeah, and to some degree, like some people, I guess, might criticize me for paying too much homage or following the tropes sometimes too much. But I think there's something very comfy and comforting about
Mm,
watching your horror tropes play out, and I I enjoy those movies that just follow the tropes sometimes.
yeah.
But for me, I want to kind of make the audience feel nice and safe and secure in their little world of predictability and that they think all these tropes will play out a certain way and then yank the rug out from under you
Yeah.
and turn things around so that all of a sudden sometime in the movie you're not sure anymore if you can trust the filmmaker to do what you thought they would do
Yeah.
and that's part of my process. It's very interactive with the audience. Like I want the audience to have these expectations because of their knowledge of horror, and then I want to yank those expectations away from you.
It's so exciting to watch. And you do that in Clown in a Cornfield when one of the big reveals happen. I remember sitting there going like, "Oh, I did not see that coming," and it just changes the
Amazing.
whole last act of the film in such a fun
Yeah.
way, man.
I mean, you hope that people don't know by the time the movie comes out, but I
Yeah.
will see.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think it's going to surprise people. I watch a lot of horror, and I think it's going to surprise
I
people.
hope so.
Not to make you feel more guilty about the Tucker and Dale stuff, but I was 14 when that came out, and I watched it at that age. I worked at a Blockbuster, and that was a movie that I vividly remember renting, and I was very that was very formative for me in my movie watching
Boy, you
journey.
just
And
made me feel really old. You working at a Blockbuster
I
with
know it
Tucker and
was
Dale.
my
Wow.
first job, and it's probably the best job. That's probably where most of this collection started. When it closed down, it became part of my own Blockbuster, I guess now. But
Wow.
you also kind of strike me as potentially a video store kid, a guy who is going and renting the movies every weekend and things. I'm curious to know what the movies you were renting or formative films for you growing up were that may or may not have sort of led you on the journey of the
Yeah.
filmmaking
I
process.
mean, I had an older brother who just loved to corrupt me and scare me and he also is into film and we would watch, these weird movies together. Like Evil Dead 2 was a big one for me. When I watched Evil Dead 2, I was like, "What? Like this is so exciting and gory and just blew my mind." And it became a staple even in college to watch and rewatch and rewatch. And
Mm,
Reanimator was something I saw when I was
love
young,
that movie.
going, "Wow, this is." And then on the real horror scale, some old movies that I remember watching. I don't know. It was a video store rental, so I don't know where it was in the chronology of like release versus my life. It's been released before, but I remember watching The Exorcist when I was way too young to watch The Exorcist,
Yeah.
and like just being tormented forever about how that was truly horrifying to me. So I did watch a lot of these horror films way too young, and then sometimes like the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and those 80s horror films that I watched, those just kind of live in like a bouillabaisse in my brain, and
Totally.
I
Yeah.
don't know when I'm like some other person who's geekier about it than me could like point to it and be like, "That's from this movie," and it's just somewhere in my brain got pulled out for this. But they all kind of mash in together. Like for me, I forget which one's which sometimes, you know?
I totally get that because I was the same. I hated horror as a kid. I was scared of everything. And then I forced myself at like 12, 13 to watch those 70s and 80s films. And it completely changed my trajectory and my love
Uh,
of horror in that. And so
uh,
they all meld together for me as well. But I think watching it with that at formative age
yeah.
was probably part of the reason. I feel like Clown in a Cornfield and Tucker and Dale and Little Evil are the films for like the kids who are growing up in the 2000s in that regard too.
Well, that's awesome. That's why I wait so long between making new movies so that I can just affect each younger generation and
Yeah.
just mess them up. So, like now that it's been 15 years since Tucker and Dale came out, and then I had Little Evil, and now Clown on a Cornfield to just really mess up kids again.
Hey, and you know what? It'll turn them into film lovers and potential horror filmmakers, and that's not a
Good, good.
bad thing at all, man. Not a
No,
bad thing at all. Eli, dude, thank you so much for your time. Like I said, I genuinely love this movie. The guys I watched it with, there was a small crowd of us because of the interviews, but we were having
nice.
the best time with this movie. So I'm super excited for people to see it. I'm so glad it's getting a cinema release here.
That's
And
awesome, Nick.
I hope we get to talk again for your next one, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope so
Hopefully
too.
it's not
That's
too
such
many
a
years before that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll help if everybody goes to see the movie. It'll make it less of a grind for me to get them made. So get the word
Absolutely.
out there, Nick.
We'll be getting the
Thanks.
word out there for sure. Appreciate